The capitals and value creation, what we're going to look at here are the capital, kind of the inputs that go into this process and how it is that a company is going to create value. We have a nice diagram that we'll end with where we show how it is that the inputs hopefully become a little bit more by the time they become outputs. But we start by looking at the 6 types of capital. And different organizations have different forms of capital that they kind of rely on in order for them to do what it is that they need to do. And these capitals are the resources that an organization uses in producing and providing products and services. These are the stocks of value that the company has. And the value is going to be increased or decreased or transformed by the different activities that the organization has. And so in our framework, we have 6 different capitals, and we'll see these in our model here in just a little bit. The first is financial capital, the funds available to an organization to use in the production of goods or the provision of services. These are the funds that are obtained through financing activities, issuing debt, issuing equity, somehow getting those financial funds to operate the business with. Financial capital is increased when a company earns a profit or when they get additional sources of financing, but this is additional financial capital coming into the company. The second type of capital is manufactured physical capital. These are the manufactured physical objects that are available to that organization to use in the production of goods or the provision of services. This includes property, plant, and equipment, but it also includes more as well. It includes external manufactured assets or infrastructure that's available to the organization. Roads, bridges, water treatment plants. Includes assets that are manufactured by this organization for sale or for retention by the organization for its own use. All of those things that are being manufactured. Our third type of capital is intellectual capital. This comes from the employee's efforts and it generates intangible assets. So we're looking here at our intellectual property, patents, copyright, software, licenses. Our organizational capital, the knowledge that we have, our systems, our procedures that we have in place. We also have our fourth type of capital, human capital, the skills, capabilities, and the experience that we have among the people in our organization. Motivation to innovate, getting everybody aligned as to what it is that we're trying to do within our governance framework, our risk management framework, our ethics. Getting all of that aligned, trying to get as much as we can out of that, out of the people that we have and the skills and the capabilities that we have. We also have social and relationship capital that comes from the relationships between our company and the society from which it secures its licenses to operate. It's kind of that whole kind of just the fact that we exist within a society. Our communities, our groups, our stakeholders, all of this is included in what we're talking about in our social and our relationship capital. Intangibles associated with our brand, our reputation, that we have some of our external stakeholders. And we also have our 6th type, natural capital. This is that renewable and unrenewable natural and environmental resources, the air, water, land, forest, minerals that go into the goods and the services. And this is going to support our past, current, and future prosperity. Kind of that whole, just that natural environment in which we operate. So we have these 6 types of capital. And I think when we're looking at these different types of capital and going through all of them, this is where we start to see it's not all financial. Company might have a lot of money, but if the people don't have any skills or talents, that money's only going to last for so long. And so it's all these different types of capital that we can see coming in and filling in the holes for that success of an organization other than just its financial success. Now, remember what we're looking at here is it's all coming to integrated reporting. So we start with the purpose of our integrated reporting. First, that integrated report is a single report that presents both financial and non-financial information in a manner that emphasizes the whole picture and the interdependence of its parts. That it all goes together. It's not just one by itself, but they're connected to each other. Now, the primary purpose of that integrated report is to explain to providers of financial capital how an organization creates value over time. We're asking somebody to give us money. How is it that we're going to create value over time? Not just now, but over time as well. And through this integrated report, we're showing all of our ways to create value. Our employees, our suppliers, business partners, communities, legislators, all of those pieces going together to show how it is that we're going to be able to create value and continue to create value. Now, that's our primary purpose of integrated reporting. We also have some goals of integrated reporting. We need to remember, we talked about this earlier, that the goal is a world in which integrated thinking is part of the way we do business. It's just part of our thought process. It's part of our decision-making process. It's part of business culture, business practice. Okay? And so integrated reporting helps facilitate that. Okay? Having good reporting gets that. So the goals of our integrated reporting are to improve the quality of information available to the providers of financial capital to enable more efficient and productive allocation of capital. Our goal is to promote a more cohesive and efficient approach to corporate reporting that draws on different reporting strands and communicates the full range of factors that materially affect the ability of an organization to create value over time. The full range. Okay, all the pieces that are working together. A goal to enhance accountability and stewardship for the broad base of the capitals that we have, those 6 capitals: financial, manufactured, intellectual, human, social, relationship, and natural. And to promote an understanding of how they are connected to each other, the interdependency that they have with each other. And we have a goal to support integrated thinking, integrated decision-making, and actions that focus on the creation of value over the short, medium, and long term. Okay, and so that's what our goals are, what our purpose is of what we're doing this. And again, we've talked about it, we've said this term many, many times, value creation. That's what we're trying to report about, what we're trying to show. And value creation is the process of creating outputs that are more valuable than the inputs we use to create them. Okay? The outputs are more valuable than the inputs. We added value. We created value. So ideally, what a business does is going to create value. Okay? Those things that we do, we have our inputs, we do something to them, and as a result of what it is that we do, we've created value. Okay? And so that value that's created comes from the increases, decreases, and transformations of our capitals. Okay? We may use one capital to create something else. And the value that we're creating, okay, this value is going to be created for the organization, giving us the ability to provide financial returns to the providers of financial capital and others, including all stakeholders and society at large. Okay? We're trying to create value for the organization and for others, and it's all interconnected. Okay? If we only create value for ourselves, we're not going to be able to do it very long. Our ability to create value for ourselves is dependent on the value that we create for others. And again, it's this whole approach. It's not just looking at one specific thing. We're looking at how all of this goes together. And so what a company has are value creation activities. Okay? They create value through making sales. Okay? That's creating hopefully an increase in our financial capital. But there's a lot of other things that we do that are also going to create value. So these other activities and interactions and relations, okay, the effects of the organization's business activities and outputs on customer satisfaction, our suppliers' willingness to trade with our organization and the terms under which they do it, the initiatives that our business partners agree to undertake with us, the imposition of supply chain conditions or legal requirements. We're not in this by ourselves. Okay? We're looking at our suppliers, we're looking at business partners. How is it that we can all do this together to create value? Okay, and so this integrated report needs to include all these other interactions and activities and relationships when they're material. Okay, not every relationship gets reported, but those material ones, those ones that have a material impact on our ability to create value, are part of that integrated report. So what we're getting to now is this simply the value creation process. Okay? And this value creation process is central to our integrated reporting. Remember, the objective of our integrated report is to communicate how an organization creates value over time. And how we do it is influenced by, and we'll look at this again here very shortly in a diagram, it's influenced by our economic environment, our external environment, our governance, our business model. Okay? All the capitals that we have as inputs, all the things that we do to convert those inputs into outputs, all of that is going to be part of what it is that we're doing to create value, this process that we have to create value. And so our report needs to provide insights about that external environment, the resources and relationships that were used and are affected by the organization, our capitals, all those different types of capitals, and how it is that we're going to create value over the short, the medium, and the long term. Again, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to create value. Now, what we have here is a graphic from the framework that shows the valuation or the value creation process. And what I'm going to do is we're going to kind of talk through this, the different parts of it, and I'm going to kind of try to make certain that I can diagram this for you as well as I can, so that you can see how all of this goes together. Because what we're looking at here is not just one thing. It's how all of this goes together. And so we start over here on the left side as our inputs, and we have our 6 capitals: financial, manufactured, intellectual, human, social and relationship, and natural. Okay, these are the inputs over here. Now, I'm going to jump ahead, perhaps more than I should, but I'm going to jump ahead to the right side, and what we have over here are the outputs. Okay, we have our inputs, we have our outputs, and hopefully the outputs are going to be bigger than the inputs. Now, within this diagram, we see kind of beneath all of it is the external environment. Okay, this is the context in which we operate, the environment in which we operate, and that is going to be a big part of it. Now, we also see here the vision and the mission in the center, and this is also a critical part. This is what we're trying to do, the purpose of the company, the intention of the company. Okay? Now, connected with all of this, we see we've got governance, we have risks and opportunities, strategy and resource allocation. Okay, this is all part of the process. That governance, this is the oversight structure. Okay, that governance, that oversight structure that kind of surrounds the business model, that supports our ability to create value. Okay, we've got risks and opportunities. What do we do about those? How do we allocate our resources? Now, in the middle of all of this, we have the business model. This is the fundamental core of the organization. We have the inputs coming in, we have the outputs going out. And as I said, hopefully the outputs are more than the inputs. Okay? But we have our inputs, we have our business activities, and that gives us our outputs. Okay, here's our outputs right here. And we also have those outputs lead into what are called outcomes. These are the consequences for the capitals that we've used as a result of our business activities. Okay. Now, our capital may be preserved, it may be increased, it may be decreased. Okay. But what happens, and kind of the way that this whole thing keeps going, we also have down here performance and outlook. Outlook is starting to look into the future. Okay, what's going to happen? What's our prediction? What's our forecast going forward? But the way that this is all a cycle is that these outputs, those capital outputs that we have at the end, you can see this arrow, it goes all the way back, and those outputs then become the inputs. And this process just keeps going and going and going, ideally. And if it works right and our outputs are more than the inputs, that means that next time we can input a little bit more. And if we input a little bit more next time, we should be able to then output a little bit more the time after that, and so on and so on and so on. But what we need to take away from this is we have our inputs, all the different forms of capital, not just financial. All of these forms of capital. We have our outputs. Within that, obviously, the big part of it is the business model, where we take those outputs, we do things to them, and they become or we take our inputs and they become our outputs, which then become the outcomes. But it's an ongoing process. It takes place as part of that environment that we operate in. We have our mission and our vision. We have our governance that provides the support to all of this happening. This is how we create value. This is how we create value for the people that made financial investments, that provided financial capital. This is how we create value for all of those stakeholders. And the report, instead of just focusing on the financial statements, instead of looking just at our balance sheet and our income statement, the reporting is going to try to capture as much of this as possible. Not just the money coming in and out, but everything else that we're doing within this organization. Okay, all of those elements, not just the money. And so what we're going to turn our attention to next, now that we've looked at this value creation process, is we're going to go ahead and look a little more specifically at the integrated report and what the components of that integrated report are, the elements of that, and some of the principles that we have for preparing that integrated report. But that's what we're going to do next.